Updated the language, so no longer strangers.
Oh, I like it. Depends on the day.
True, Joe.
No, you can say visitors for concession.
Strangers are over there a little better.
You can say visitors for a couple of sessions now. For sure. But since the last call, I like it.
Is it strange?
Order, please. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Speaker. I call from the order paper, Motion 1, Budget Debate.
Okay, we will now be debating the sub-amendment of the budget. The Honourable Member for Exploits.
Thank you, Speaker. And again, it's a pleasure to get up and speak on the sub-amendment of the budget. It's always nice to get up and represent the people who elected me and put me here. Last night, of course, I sat here and I listened to a great deal of the debate. There was a lot of issues brought up, a lot of concerns by different MHAs. Healthcare, of course, was one of the big ones that I did here, and it's no different, I guess, in my district. Again, I will bring up the healthcare issues. I suppose I'll start with that one. In 2016, of course, the Liberals stripped the 24-hour emergency service out of the Dr. U. Toomey Healthcare Centre. Since then, there's been two promises made, 2 different elections, 2 different premiers, still Liberal government. Nothing has happened. And that decision in 2016 was nothing, primary, only a government decision. Nobody else's decision. Staff was there, people were there, the facility is there. Actually, prior in 2014, on the previous administration, There was over $4 million spent on that hospital to do up the blood clinic, lab, everything was done. The facility itself, I think there was roof repair, all that stuff was done to have a great facility there. And they stripped the 24-hour service in 2016. And it still remains a big issue today. Of course, doctors in the region, we spoke about it yesterday. Grand Falls, Windsor, Buckens, where the Central Newfoundland Regional Healthcare Center is too. We're lacking in doctors. Emergency unit up there, stressed, overwhelmed. 24-hour emergency service at the Dr. Utumi Healthcare Center, gone. We need to streamline that, as I said before. And in 2019, the first election, what did the former premier say? One of the former premiers, we're going to reinstate 24-hour emergency service. That went a couple of years, never happened. 2021, same thing. New premier, new candidate. They promise we're going to reinstate 24-hour emergency service. Not my words, that's theirs. They came in and said it. Everybody knows it. Still not happening. Actually, the Liberal candidate at the time who made the promise, where's he to? I've heard this brought up a couple of times last night. Where's he to? 2021 campaign. Premier's office, Grand Falls, Windsor. Failed Liberal candidate. Failed Liberal candidate. Okay, we'll give you a job. We'll give you a job in Grand Falls, Windsor in the Premier's office. But yet we still can't get our 24-hour emergency service. Decisions that they make, yes. And to see that they could put someone, open up that office in the Premier's position, in the office in there. At the time, 2019, well, Central East, Central West, I'll call it. 7 MHAs, basically, Central East, Central West. At the time in 2019, we had 5 Liberal MHAs. 2 PC MHAs got elected. And the 2 PC MHAs, I must say, we were doing fine. We were talking to the constituents, doing work. We didn't ask for the Premier's office in Grand Falls, Windsor. We didn't want it. Nobody consulted us. So I'm left to believe why that decision was made. I wasn't consulted. I didn't need no help in there. I don't think the member from Grand Falls, Windsor, Buckens, I don't think he needed any help in there. And as far as I know, he wasn't asked. So the only thing I can see is that if the candidates got elected on the Liberal side, they needed some help. Or the Premier at the time didn't have confidence in him. Something there, something happened. I don't know why. This had to be one of it. We didn't need no help. But yet, they could put a failed Liberal candidate at Premier's office in Grand Falls, Windsor. And I'm hoping the new Premier, now that we have a new Premier, will see fit to say that I don't need no help in exploits. I'm sure the member for Grand Falls, Windsor, Buckens don't need no help in his district. We can work fine with constituents. So anyway, to see that they could find funding for that kind of stuff to support their Liberal friends is ridiculous. Bad decisions, totally bad decisions. It really is. And when I look, and I've talked to people at the Exploits Valley Employment Corporation. They've been there for years. Now I know this money comes through transfer funds through the federal government. I know it does. And it's employment money for people with disabilities put them to work. Last year that was cut. Nobody has advocated for them. Nobody. Through the federal government to get this funding put back in place. Now that's funding that puts people with intellectual disabilities to work in different areas, different places, and they work well in society. They work well with society. They love their jobs. They feel great that they're part of community, community-based. They feel great that they're doing something. They have initiative in the morning to get up and go to work, and we have lots of it out there. You know, we have a lot of people out there in those predicaments that need that sort of help. Was there anything extra in this budget for those people? No. Nothing there extra for those people. I think that they had it up to somewhere around $2 million. I think somewhere in that area that they were employing people with those disabilities. Great to have the funding for them. Great initiative, great project, great way to have people employed. Now they're just barely hanging on, only working probably 3 months at a time or whatnot, just getting enough to even keep the offices open. When those people worked with those individuals with disabilities, so what are they left to now? What are they left to now? They're going to be, probably some of them had enough work that they got EI, I guess. After their EI is finished, where do they do then? What happens to them then? More than likely on our own systems. It's basically where they're going to end up to. When they are good, productive people of our society, and they're left out. Fell between the cracks because of government's decisions. And when I see that government's decisions can employ a failed Liberal candidate, Liberal friends at an office in Grand Falls, Windsor, Buckens, in Grand Falls, Windsor, not on. Not on. Put that money where it should be. I know the member from Grand Falls, Windsor, Buckens said $250,000, and we've all said $250,000. And yes, there's lots of places we can spend it. I know you can say $250,000 for the hospice, which the member from Grand Falls, Windsor, Buckens mentioned yesterday. I know we can say $250,000 for that. I know I could say, if I take the $250,000, give it to the Exploits Valley Economic Corporations. I know I could say I'd take that $250,000 and give it to some organizations. Take that $250,000, let's invest in some of our roads. There's food banks. There's lots of areas that we could spend that $250,000 a year. Lots of ways. Lots of ways. Summer students again. But to see that it's there to support a Liberal candidate that was out making promises in the last election, and they're willing to support that. I mean, said the government side, they're willing to support it. The office is still there. We got another new premier. The office is still there, and there's lots of places that we could spend that $250,000. Not saying we don't want a lot more. Yes, I mean, I just mentioned a few places. No trouble to get rid of a $250,000. Pretty simple, pretty easy. But to see those people at the Exploits Valley Employment Corporation falling through the cracks is terrible. It's terrible. Their mothers and fathers, they call me. I've gotten the calls. Pleeman, what am I going to do? You know, Johnny loved his job down at the drugstore. Loved his job over at the shoe store. Loved his job doing the construction. Now he got no job where he could do that job, and the people around him loved him. People around him loved him. They really did. They loved what he was doing. He interacted with the community. He felt like he was contributed to society, but there's no funding. But anyway, they all wants to say something about it so they can get up. So they can get up and talk about it all. They like what they're going to do. They can tell me what they're going to do when they gets a chance, right? But when they said something's still working, so is the member in the office in Grand Falls, Windsor Bucket. He's still working as well and not coming out of it either. So anyway. That's one of the issues. That's one of the issues I hear. But if they want to get up and explain that situation, they can. If one of them get up and have something to say about it, I don't mind. I'm sure the crowd at the Exploits Valley Economic Corporation would love to know what you got to say about it. Sure, they would like to know. Really. So anyway, and then we hear of closures, diversions, healthcare. They say, they're doing marvelous work with healthcare. We're still hearing closures and diversions. Every week, closures and diversions. The Conagra Peninsula, closures and diversions. Bayvert, Lewisport, Kittiwake, all those areas. Still being left without physicians, still being left without those services. When I look at the 24-hour emergency service and the way the government has used the fundings where they cut and then put it somewhere else, and the type of spending that they're doing, the people in my district see it. People in my district see it easy enough. They really do. They see it, and they feel it. They see it and they feel it. So that's things that need to be done. More constructive decisions at government's expenditures. Certainly need more constructive decisions. Volunteer sector. I'll go to our volunteer sector. I got a few minutes left, so I'll talk about our volunteer sector. Our volunteer sectors in our society, especially in the Exploits District, make up for community projects, community benefits. They're amazing what they do for our communities. They really, really are. All the community sectors. Volunteer fire departments, is what we depend on. We have no career firefighting in the Exploits District, but we have all volunteers, and we depend on them every day. And I think somebody here mentioned it yesterday that they're first responders now, and they need the equipment, the tools to be able to be first responders. Because what they're responding to these days, accidents, medical calls, they're even the first call now for a medical call, not ambulances anymore. They're the first call for a medical call. And I spoke about it through a petition here earlier this year. They needed some equipment, some of their fire equipment, all declined. All the small fire departments all be in decline. When the government is relying on those people for their services every single day, and they're low on equipment. They're low on equipment, telling me, boy, can you check on my application? Or we got declined on our application. We don't have our breathing apparatus. We don't have our tanks. We need this. And to see those people left out when we rely on them every single day. Now, don't tell me it's not happening. I had the letters. I had it here. I had them, through a petition. I brought it up. So it is happening. So we need to put the funding where it should be. There's another spot right there. There's another spot right there. 1 million dollars where for 4 years after 250,000 from the Premier's office in Grand Falls, Windsor. $1 million, man. If you gave that through $1 million, if that's where it went, through some apparatuses for those volunteer fire departments, sure, they'd be all done now. Yep. They'd be all done. They'd all looked after, rather than throw it away up in the Premier's office. Wow.
Decision 4 or 5 times.
I did say it 4 or 5 times, but it needs to be repeated. Needs to be repeated.
For clarity.
It needs to be repeated.
The office is still open.
And I'm glad I finally got your attention. Glad I finally got your attention. There you go, look, somebody else now, look. Somebody else got to say. Somebody else got to say. You look at the websites every day. Look at the websites every day. There's virtual care. Virtual care is what they call it now. Virtual care is actually what they call it now. So you get the virtual care. They don't even tell.
Order, please.
What was that word?
Yeah, he called you a lie.
Order, please. I do. Order.
Yeah.
I asked the member to retract that, please. I clearly heard it.
Yeah.
I will do the honorable thing and get on my feet, and I'll apologize for that comment.
Thank you. The honourable member for exploits.
Anyway, Speaker, you know, I see my time soon be up, and I know they're eager over there to speak. I can tell this morning that they can't wait to go. So I think that you know, we're going to have to go and vote on our budget. We're going to have to go and vote on our budget. And I heard the member from Mount Pearl Southlands last night bring up a good point. Actually, I mean, say he mentioned of the 400 million that was in the budget last night, the way it was put in the budget, and he's having doubts about voting for the budget, and. No doubt, apparently no doubt. He says he's not voting for it. And matter of fact, the way he spoke about it last night got me convinced. Got me convinced of not voting for the budget. You know, I had second thought. I was right on the borderline of whether I was going to vote for the budget or not. But the way that member spoke last night, proved that, you know, that's what's happening in this type of situation in the budget. Well, I'm convinced as well. I think now I'm finally convinced. I think my mind's made up. So other than that, Speaker, there's lots of things that I could bring up in my district, Speaker, and but actually I think there's somebody mentioned leave. I'll take the leave. I don't care. I can stay here all day. Actually, stay here all day. But one thing I would like to bring up, Speaker, is the fishing. Of course, fishing, I do have a small community in my district, actually is where I'm from. I'm very proud of it. The community of Leading Tickles is the only fishing licenses that I have in my district. The fishing season is on, and I'm glad the season went ahead this year without too many disruptions, because fishing is what they do, fishing is what they love, fishing makes their community, and when they get up in the morning, that's what they want to do, is go fishing. So I'm glad that they're back on the water this year without too much disruption, and I do wish them a very successful and safe season, and I'm looking forward to talking to them every time it goes down. So good luck with the fishing season, and continue what you do. Other than that, Speaker, I got a few seconds left, but you know, I'll just take my seat now and let somebody else take a turn at their speaking privileges. So looks like they can't wait. There's 2 or 3 of them can't wait there now to get up. So I'm going to let them get up. Thank you, Speaker.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I didn't plan to take any time to have anything to say this morning, but I think it's the responsibility of all of us in terms of when we speak and when things are said that's not correct and is not factual, that it should be pointed out and it should be corrected. I'd like to know where the member for exploits got his information. Please provide it, that down on the Canagra Peninsula there are closures and there are diversions. His exact words. So, but that is not true. It's not factual. So I would like to know where his source of information is. And I say that because the people in the Canagra Peninsula went through a very difficult time when there was diversions on the go. He knows it. We all know it. Shameful. So I have a responsibility on behalf of my constituents this morning, because somebody may be listening to that to think, oh, there's more diversions and closures now. What closures? There are no closures. If anything, we got a good situation in the Canagra Peninsula Hospital down in Harbour Breton and in St. Albans and in all the other clinics. So what he said is not true. So I think he should do the honourable thing, go back, do his research, and come back and report to this House what is correct.
Here, here.
The Honorable the Minister responsible for government services.
Thank you, Speaker. I just wanted to also correct the record. In my previous capacity as Minister of Immigration, Population Growth and Skills, I did oversee the Supportive Employment Program, and the member this morning has been talking about that program, so I wanted to correct for the record what's going on with the program, and we did talk about that extensively in estimates. So I would encourage anyone who's interested to go back and review the estimates records for that as well. So the Supportive Employment underwent a review, Speaker. We've extended all the contracts for the supportive employment agencies until the end of July, and then new contracts will be starting August 1st. And so I just want to also say the government is not the employer here, but also the amount of funding is being maintained for all supportive employment organizations. There's no funding being cut. Every participant is being grandfathered in, and we're making changes to make sure that the spirit of the program is maintained, because not all instances was necessarily the spirit of the program in place and I guess in the contract. So we're making sure that all the contracts align with the spirit of the program. And there are also areas where there was budget in other areas that was not being utilized. And so we want to make sure that all the available budget goes towards giving people, clients, who needed employment and job trainers, and putting it towards helping people get to work and get back to work. And so I fully disagree with the statements of the member. All the funding has been maintained. No one should be without employment, and government is not the employer. The supportive employment agencies are the employer. And if there are anything going on outside of what I've described, please let myself and the current minister know, and we'd be happy to have the team look into it. Thank you, Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Central West Bellevue.
Thank you, Speaker, and it's always a great honour to stand in this House and represent the people of Central West Bellevue. That I'm so proud to represent them. But I want to start today by wishing probably the most compassionate, hardworking, honest, and faithful to their job people, and say Happy Nurses Week. And I think it deserves a round of applause. We heard from the new Premier yesterday, and it was actually nice of him to stand in his place and talk about the budget, because it's the first time I heard a Premier talk about the budget in a long time. And he had a lot of things to say, and carrying on with the mandate that he inherited. And that's about talking about our health care and filling those gaps in the health care. And we couldn't be happier to make sure that that happens as well, because it's so important to each and every person, but not only that, to our doctors and nurses and administrators that work in our healthcare system that really need that support at this time. And like I said, with the recruitment and retention, if we can get those programs to be robust, then I think it'll make a big difference. And you know, we have a minister now that has a former healthcare background. So just yesterday we start working on a very important project together as well. So again, there are good things about what we're doing here, but the gaps in the system, I guess, are the big issue. We understand that it takes time, but the thing about it is that we've already utilized a lot of time that never bared any fruit. So I think the thing is that when we recreate healthcare from our health accord, we have to understand it's not a lens of how it affects you as an individual, but it's a lens that we need to look at of how it affects the people of the province that so readily need it on a daily basis. I think it's important that the communication from our hospitals to our patients is more robust, I guess, kind of thing, and making sure that there's no missed appointments, or there's no gaps in the system, I guess. I got an 86-year-old man now that he doesn't have a family doctor, but he needs to, and there's no nurse practitioner near where he's to, and he's unable to get that note to go and say that he can keep his license. But with that being said, I also want to make a shout out to my old buddy Eric Courtney. I'm sure he's watching in Arnold's Cove. He's at the Golden Years Manor. He's 96 years old, and he just turned 96 actually 2 days ago, and he actually has his license that he's still allowed to drive around Arnold's Cove. I don't think he's out on the highway or anything, but in the meantime, he got a smile that goes for days, and it's a new lease on life for him, because he really has always driven. And like I said, it gives him an opportunity, you know, to go to the grocery store and all that stuff whenever he wants. But like I said, that's the kind of things that I focus on, and that's what I think that my job is as the MHA for Placentia West Bellevue, is to make people's lives better where I can. And that's the whole reason why I always say that, you know, through hard work and communication, we can accomplish a lot of things. But that's why, and that's where I come to, and you know, in saying that, I also give a big shout out to Wayne Follett and Joe Mercer in the Newfoundland Labrador housing. Absolutely two gems that, you know, I tell you, they, I tell you the best, I would say their best attribute is that they listen.
And they care.
And that's why they listen, is because they care. And you know what? I've never had a rebuttal or anything like that. I've met with those guys and the ministers, and just to know that any minister that comes into housing does not have to micromanage them. I can tell you that right now. They know what they're at, and I think they're the ones that are helping us with filling some gaps, but we're not there yet. But with people like Wayne Follett and Joe Mercer, I think that we're going to get there. And that's the thing, is that it's the internal people that are in our public service that do so much great work, like our nurses. And this being Nurses Week, that's the whole point, is that we're all in this together. We all have a job to do. Nobody has the silver bullet, and nobody is an expert in everything. That's what I want to. That's the point I want to make. If you know how to listen, you can become an expert in everything. But if you think you're an expert in everything, then keep running your mouth, and you'll have a sidewalk to walk on real soon. When I listened to the Premier speak and saying about a laser focus on rural Newfoundland, then I think the laser must be still warming up, because there's no focus on rural Newfoundland, and not in my district anyway, because my district goes from Marystown to Long Harbour and all places in between. Everything's off a branch, and everything is, you know, let's say English Harbour East. It's 32 kilometres from the highway. But it's also 45 kilometres by the time you get down to English Harbour East from Goobies. So, you know, there's a distance. They're right in the middle with Terrenceville and Grand Lapierre. It's a really different area, for the simple fact that they're equidistant between Marystown and Clarenville. But the other odd part, I guess, about my district being so large is that we don't actually have a physical hospital in our district. I do depend on the Bjorn Healthcare Centre, which I support tremendously, the GB Cross and Discovery Healthcare that I support tremendously, and Whitburn as well. And I was honoured to go out there to their rally and help save the services for the Whitburn Hospital, which was very important, not only for the people that are employed there that are from my district, but the people that would present and the people that would have any issues, I guess, while they're on their way to St. John's, kind of thing, to get help. And Carboneer helps a lot as well. But, you know, the thing is that in saying that we're all in this together, is that, you know, there should be never, I guess, a personal lens put on it when somebody's asking for help, and you can't take it personal. You just have to help them. And I mean, whether you agree or not with what they need help with is fine. just because it doesn't fit into how you see your life doesn't mean that you can't help somebody with what they see as good in their life. There's a few things I'd like to point out that I guess, you know, we don't want to say that anybody's derelict in their duty, but, you know, there's things that have happened that I've been working on for literally years. I've been here actually come Friday for all the people that came in, I guess, in 2019. It'll be our 6th anniversary of sitting in these seats and representing the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. And I think we're all proud of that. So, you know, like I said, we all come in here together, but we all have different things for our districts that we have to focus on, because not all things are equal, and not all funding that comes to each district is equal. So I'll just talk about a couple of things. Actually, one thing outside of my district, I got a young girl. She's something I'm working on with the minister, the new minister on, and hopefully we can get there, because it's kind of been one of these cans that have been kicked down the road with no real solution. I've brought a solution, and I'm hoping that we can look at it as a one-off or a unique piece. But this young lady has some issues with epilepsy and mental health issues, and she's out. You know, she's an adult and she's out on her own. She's okayed for, already approved for 70 hours. They have a worker that comes in and does 40 hours and does a great job. She's been there for 3 years, but when somebody else comes in to work the 30 hours, I guess when they see an episode or anything like that, I guess it kind of scares them. They move away from it. And the father's always left to look after his own daughter. But he's also a retired teacher that we could probably use as in the teaching field, but he's not able to apply for a job even as a substitute, because he doesn't know what days his daughter will need him, because if somebody up and quits or somebody don't show up for a shift, they're not replaced right away. So he has to automatically do that. So I think my solution to it is that we know that this is a real solution to this gap, and in this instance, I think it only makes sense, because the father has to do the training actually for the new people that are coming in if they take the other 30 hours even. So he's more than done his part, but I think that's the solution, is just let him get paid the 30 hours, because A, he's not able to go back to work, and B, he's filling a gap that right now Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services can't fill. So I think this young lady is more than deserving of getting these hours filled, because you know, bringing on somebody new is a little bit strange for this young lady as well. And but again, this is somebody that I'm dealing with from outside my district. I'm not here to call anybody out or anything like that. It's just that this family has, you know, I guess been told by other family members and past relationships that if you want it done, then call Jeff Dewar. He'll help you. He'll certainly call you back. And I think that was their issue, is that they weren't getting called back from their own MHA once they reached out. But I got nothing to say about that. Those people can do their job the way they want to do their job. We still got diesel, you know, on the ground on the Swift Current. We got a Department of Environment. But I found it really weird or funny or like, we all talk about environment and how it's our job to, you know, take care of the environment. And, you know, if you saw a fella throw a chick bag out the window by you, we'd take his license plate down. That's how we're after being groomed to this point, you know what I mean? But when we spill diesel, if you don't have insurance, don't worry about it. Environment will take care of itself. Unbelievable. What an attitude. I could not believe it. This is the way this has been handled is derelict of duty. And I will say that for the simple fact that let's clean it up and let's go after the administration and the insurance and whatever needs to happen after the fact. but let's clean up this diesel. 700 liters of diesel. Lady got a hobby farm next to it, and you know, she's trying to grow some root vegetables for her father that lives on the other side between the two houses, and like, it's just unbelievable that we'd be here today talking about, like, this happened back in like February or early March. Like, I can't believe it. Like, and we're still here today talking that people are not calling them, or people are not talking to the people of Swift Current. Like, isn't it our responsibility to, in an emergency situation, to go out and clean that up and then go after the costs later if we got to get recoup costs? But it's the environment. But apparently only if you can pay for the environment, then we're worried about it. So I guess that's what this whole transition to an economy means and all this kind of stuff. So when we beat the drum, about, I guess, about the environment, let's make sure that we're not just doing it for our own self-worth. So, but I say to the former Minister of Environment, you can get up and explain why you didn't want to talk to the people of Swift Current whenever you're ready. When it comes to, you know, about 6 years ago, we came in and we were going to do, when they done the health accord, you know, we, in Arnold's Cove, we were losing a doctor that had stuck around for over 50 years. And Dr. Jeffrey Fallow, and I tip my hat to him. He's retired now, but he still has some patients, I think, that he, you know, is helping out and still going to the homes and stuff like that. So he's a great guy. Actually, he's a big part of our community in Arnold's Cove, and you know, he's a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate talking to him all the time. But again, we started about 5 or 6 years ago on this Arnold's Cove clinic. Because we understood that we were going to be a spoke to take away some of the pressure off GB Cross in Clarenville and the New Hook Centre in Whitburn, so that, you know, we had an area there where we have an aging community, but it is also a very industrial area, and it could really use a clinic. And you know, at this point, we're not even really looking for a doctor. We're looking for a nurse practitioner that can work there. But like I said, through COVID and all this kind of stuff, the jigs and the reels, I mean, it's nobody exactly's fault. But I think this is a file that needs to move forward now in short order, so we can really break ground this year, get the clinic built, and then get it personed with a nurse practitioner or a doctor. And to the people of Arnold's Cove, we're almost there. I know it's taken some time, and it's been unfortunate, but we're going to get there. We are going to get there, and I'll stick with this until we get there, because it's the volition of the town, it's the volition of the area, and as long as it's their volition, it's my volition as well. And I know that it'll be a great help to taking the pressure off GB Cross in Clarenville that's already overwhelmed. So in my last 4 minutes, I guess, I'd like to touch on the roads, because having a large district, it's very important that people be able to come and go as they please. But you know, when we talk about roads, it's a whole trickle effect, because if you can do whatever you want with the roads, if the brush is still there, it's not much sense. If you don't have any shoulders on the roads, people can't even walk. You know, there's a lot of different things, and I mean, like I said, everything in my district's off a branch. You got poor old Rashun and Bain Harbour that has a school down there and a cow pat for a road. And I've asked many times, even if we can get a bit of coal patch or something, just to try and fill in these gaps, and to no avail. I mean, it's unbelievable. We get invited in to give our priorities. I have 36 towns and 8 LSDs and 4 unincorporated areas, 16 fire departments, and I get to bring in 3 priorities. So is that to tell my district that I didn't care about the other 42 entities? I'm thinking so, because the 3 priorities that I laid on the table are very rough areas, and to me, the reason why these areas are so rough because we have 5 depots in my district, and 3 of those shut down in the summertime for whatever reason. That really hasn't been explained yet either. But when you have a large district like that, then it bodes well that maybe it's not that we got to close down the same 3 every time. Maybe there's a couple that could stay open in those areas so that they can work on those areas that they're kind of supposed to oversee. Because when it goes down to 2, and that's not to take away anything from the people that work in our depots that are still open. It's just the fact that they're overwhelmed, and they have probably too big of an area to cover for the amount of time that they have. So all I ask is that when we sit down and you ask for my priorities and they're not fulfilled or they're not even on the order sheet, kind of, was it a waste of time? I guess. I mean, really. I mean, if they're not being listened to, and that's the whole point. That's what I'm coming back to, is that you're only going to be as focused, I guess, as good as you're listening, because we all don't have the silver bullet. If you're not listening to people and how they see their lives and how they want to live their lives and live their best life, then I think we're missing the boat on really representing the people with the utmost respect and integrity that we should be doing here in this House. And like I said, I do get a lot of calls from all over the province, and I work with ministers and ADMs and EAs all the time to make sure that those people are looked after. And what I always remind anybody that I work with is that let's work on this together for somebody else. I'm not looking for a pat on the back, and I'm not looking for anything. And if the people want me to continue as their MHA, I certainly will. But the thing is that when we're all in this together, people know that they can approach me and I'll call them back. And I think that's the integrity that I bring to the table, and the respect that I have for the people that have given me this opportunity to be their voice in the House of Assembly. So on that note, I know my time is running out. I want to say thank you to all the people that do work with me on behalf of my constituents in Placentia West Bellevue. And I really want to say I hope all our nurses stay safe and have a great Nurses Week. Thank you.
The Honourable the Member Cape St. Francis.
Thank you, Speaker. It's always an honour to stand and represent the good people of my district, and of course the pleasure today to speak this morning to the sub-amendment to Budget 2025. Speaker, last night here in the House of Assembly, I do know it may have gotten heated at times, and I commend you on the job that you're doing, Speaker. But at one point the Premier did stand and in the midst of debate said that on this side of the House we care. And I wrote it down when the Premier said it. I know several of my colleagues did the same. But it wasn't until driving home last night and I received 2 messages from constituents who were watching last night saying that it insinuated that we didn't care. Now, with all due respect to the Honourable Premier, I know, again, in debate when things are said and may not be thought through fully, but I know that 40 members of this House care. And I know His Majesty's official opposition, we care, everyone cares in this House of Assembly. So I just wanted to make that, to say that for the benefit of the 2 that did reach out to me who were watching the House last evening. And I fully understand in heated debate, things are said, may not be fully thought through, but, and Speaker, I know, again, with you in your position as well, that you do care. So I just wanted to make that known for the people that did reach out to me, and there are times heated debate does bring out these comments. Speaker, last night while here in the House, my colleague from Torringat Mountains spoke about food security. And she spoke about the methods that families come together in her district when they're looking for affordable ways for food orders that come into her district. And I realize, after speaking with her, the compounded challenges that constituents in her district face when it comes to food security, and how that impacts her job as an MHA in helping her constituents in the best way she can. Yesterday, also in the House, the Minister of Finance and President of the Treasury Board stood when my colleague, I believe from Bonavista, spoke about food bank usage. And I can be corrected, Speaker, but I do believe that the Minister was referring to numbers coming down here in the province with respect to food bank usage. I'm not quite sure of the data she was using, but the message she was trying to convey to this House was that food bank usage was coming down in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Well, Speaker, in my beautiful district of Cape St. Francis, I know that the food bank usage has increased dramatically. And in my former role as a elected municipal official, I began working with the food bank. I continue to do what I can to support the Northeast Avalon Food Bank in the town of Torbay, which services all of my district and a portion of the neighbouring district of Conception Bay East Bell Island. And as I said, food bank usage has increased over the last number of years. And a significant portion of food bank clients are children. Approximately 1 in 3 food bank clients are under the age of 18. So when you look at a single parent family, albeit a mother or father with young children, I've spoken to several of them, and they reached out as to how do we begin the process of receiving from the food bank. And when you look at it, Speaker, it takes a great deal of courage for an individual to speak up and to ask for help. And I'm always, as my colleague from Placentia West Bellevue just said, always at the ready to give help and to be available. But it is becoming more and more prominent in my district. And I'm sure we have other districts in this Honourable House that are feeling the same. Speaker, I went to just look for some information, and Hunger Count 2024 did some stats in that year, and they reached out to a total of 62 food banks across our beautiful province here in Newfoundland and Labrador. And those numbers state that 15,425 visits to our food banks, these 62 in particular, were in the course of 1 year, with 1/3 being children involved in the food bank usage. In their numbers, the visits increased by 12% over 2023. So, and I fully appreciate the stats that the Deputy Premier said yesterday with respect to food bank usage, but it's not matching what I'm reading and what I'm experiencing with my boots on the ground in my district. To further continue on with that, Speaker, Newfoundland and Labrador had the highest percentage of seniors accessing food banks in Canada, in our country. Newfoundland and Labrador seniors have the highest percentage accessing food banks nationwide. And that, as I've spoken to in this House many times over the last 4 years, is a product of the high cost of living and, of course, wages not matching or keeping up with that. And, Speaker, in addition to all that, Newfoundland and Labrador has the highest percentage of homeowners accessing food banks. The highest percentage of homeowners in Canada are in Newfoundland and Labrador accessing food banks. Now, there's one of my colleagues from across the way has said many times over this sitting of the House that numbers don't lie. Well, Speaker, numbers do not lie. And when it comes to food bank usage, it is steadily increasing. And that is alarming to me when I look at people who once supported the food bank, donated to the food bank, and volunteered their time and their effort there, are now users of the food bank, Northeast Avalon Food Bank in Torbay, in my district. So, Speaker, that is very concerning when it comes to food security, and moreover when we have children and seniors who are a part of that. Now, Speaker, I would like to just give a shout out to the new board of directors who are now operating the food bank in Torbay, as I said, the Northeast Avalon Food Bank. And in December of 2024, a new board of directors came on, and I'd just like to share with this Honourable House and the people of our province the individuals who are now operating that food bank. President Crystal Murphy, Vice President Cassie Manning Dyke, the Treasurer is Karina Martin, the Secretary is Emma Daly, my apologies, and Director Tara McDonald. Now, Speaker, I do know that this group are enthusiastic. They are a solid team, very excited to help the people of my district and to carry on the future endeavours towards community care when it comes to accessible food and to helping out seniors and low-income families in our district. Speaker, I know I might get a ribbon for this one or not, but my wife always tells me I shouldn't be naming names or making lists. But from the top of my head over the years, the people that provide great support for my district and the neighbouring district of Concepcion East Bell Island to the Northeast Avalon Food Bank. And I just want to share with you some of the people, organizations, and groups that are always on the ready. They're always there to help and to provide assistance to those who are in need. And Speaker, we have the Lions Clubs in my district, Torbay Community Gardens, the Canadian Postal Workers, the sports teams at Holy Trinity High in Torbay, students from St. Francis of Assisi in Lugabee Middle of Outer Cove, local businesses, annual memorial softball tournaments that all funds go to the operations of the food bank, the Northeast Eagles minor hockey team, the various church fundraisers, the Torbay Folk Arts Council, Music for Young Children, the many personal family donations, the 5 municipalities, I'm very proud to say, all support the municipality of Portugal St. Phillips in the neighbouring district of Concepcion East Bell Island do as well. The Torbay Harbour Authority, the Lugabee Mill Cove, a development association, the Knights of Columbus, and the dozens and dozens of anonymous supporters. I'd like to publicly thank all of them, and of course those I have missed, because I'm sure I've missed some, Speaker, but they're always there to provide assistance for those who are in need. Unfortunately, with today's cost of living, with what the people of the province are faced, I believe my colleague from Exploit said earlier that wasn't in the budget to help offset the difficulties that people of the province are facing. These individuals, these groups, these non-for-profit organizations, they all help out, and I'd like to publicly thank them for what they do. Speaker, I want to share with you now a couple from Pooch Cove, Tony and Mary Palmer, two individuals with a family who looked at what they could do to help others. And these two individuals, I know I had the conversation with the Minister of Municipal Affairs in his former role with CSSD, but Tony and Mary began the food pantry in the town of Pooch Cove. And for my honourable colleagues in this House, who are always attentively listening, and I thank them for that, the pantry redirects surplus food just prior to being out of date from the different box stores, from grocery stores and what have you. And they have a process of going to these establishments, picking up the food in a safe manner, bringing them back to the town of Pooch Cove, and dispersing this food to families, to hundreds of constituents in my district. And Speaker, I've seen firsthand the positive effects that Tony and Mary Palmer are having on many demographics in my district. And anyone can come to the pantry regardless of age, regardless of income. I've seen students, I've seen seniors, I've seen families, working families, I've seen those in income support, I've seen all demographics access this food pantry, and no one is turned away. And I can tell you, Speaker, by speaking with some of the people who are accessing the pantry in Pooch Cove, some who cannot afford to buy fresh fruits and vegetables, some who cannot afford to purchase milk. This is reality. This is what some people are facing in my district, and I know this is not a one-off. We have many districts, we have 40 districts in this House, and I do know that many districts are facing the same. And Speaker, I'd just like to share with you some numbers. So the food rescues from retail stores from June to December of 2024, there were 51 rescues, food rescues. It was an average value of $3,500 per rescue. That's just under $180,000 of food that was rescued from going to the landfill. Again, it's just prior to being out of date, and the food is still good. So approximately $180,000 worth in value, 65,000 kilograms of food. That was just from June to December of 2024. Now, Speaker, I cannot comprehend the number of meals that 65,000 kilograms of food can produce. But I do know the smiles on the faces of the people who access the food pantry on a weekly basis. Tony and Mary set up, thanks to the town of Pooch Cove for providing the space, the municipal building that they operate on 2 days a week to provide these food rescues to the individuals. I see the positive effect it has on the single mother with 2 young children who can't afford to buy yogurts, fruit cups, and various things for their lunches. I've spoken to seniors who, for the first time in a long time, had fresh fruits and vegetables in their fridge. I've spoken to the working class who are in between jobs or for whatever reason, and the difference that it makes to their household, all to the thanks of for Tony and Mary Palmer and the food pantry in Pooch Cove. Speaker, just some more numbers I'd like to share with you. The food rescues from Second Harvest in 2023 was $37,000 in value, and in 2024 was $32,000 in value. All of this makes a big difference. That's not going to the landfill, and it is supporting our residents. So I would like to thank Tony and Mary Palmer for all that they do. And Speaker, I can tell you, they're feeling the pinch out of pocket when it comes to the price of fuel. So for example, they're traveling from Pooch Cove to Costco twice a week, or to Dominion or Sobeys or whatever. This is impacting their pocketbook with respect to paying for fuel in their vehicle to do this. And they're doing it all out of the goodness of their hearts. So I'd like to thank them for what they do, what they're going to continue to do, and I'll support them wherever I can as they continue to support my constituents. Speaker, I have, in the few minutes I have left, I do want to touch on transportation infrastructure. I know the Minister is always listening when it comes to transportation infrastructure. And over the last number of years, I've worked with 3 Ministers of Transportation Infrastructure. And shortly ago, I presented a petition to this House with respect to road work. And Speaker, first and foremost, I'm very appreciative of the road work that was approved for my district for 2025-2026. I've said that to the Minister, and I'll say it publicly. And look forward to that work being started very soon to make a difference to the people traveling through my district. But I did present a petition on road work in this honourable House, and in that it included the need of grading in my district. And I asked a question with respect to the horrible shoulders that are on Route 20 and 21. I've taken many pictures, I've sent them to the department. There's in places you have a drop of 6 or 7 or 8 inches once off the side of the pavement. And Speaker, if you go off that, you know what's going to happen. You're going to have damage your vehicle. You're going to have an accident. So I did ask the question. The Minister of the day said that he would get back to me. I checked with my CA. We did not receive anything from the Minister with respect to the last time that grading was done in the district of Cape St. Francis on Route 20 and 21. So I would like just to remind the Minister if that information could be received and the need for grading to be done in the district. I do know that throughout the province there's much that needs to be done. My colleague from Exploit spoke about brush cutting but with respect to grading in my district and to correct the horrible shoulders on Route 20 and 21, it is something that's necessary. It's a safety concern. And I've spoken with people who unfortunately went off the shoulder and dropped and damaged tires and rims, ball joints and front ends. So if we could get that Speaker, if the minister could provide that information and hopefully to get a grader in the district to get some work done, it would be very much appreciated. In my last couple of minutes, Speaker, I do want to touch on housing. And I know I spoke about housing just a couple of days ago, but I want to speak on it again with respect to the information we received in estimates and the further work that needs to be done. My colleague from Central West Bellevue earlier this morning mentioned two particular staff, and I hate to single out staff, but these two individuals, Wayne Follett and Joe Mercer, are doing tremendous work. Tremendous work, and I'd like to publicly thank them. I know the minister is nodding in agreement with respect to the work that they do. They are available whenever we call. They are always willing and ready to help, and they have assisted me and my constituents many times over the last 4 years. So I'd just like to publicly say thank you to Wayne Follett and Joe Mercer for what they do, and of course to all the staff within Newfoundland Outdoor Housing. It is a challenge, and I admit that. It's not an easy task with respect to Newfoundland Outdoor Housing, but there's many people that do need help. And with over 2,500 people on the wait list for housing, the more that we can do, the more that government can do with respect to getting available housing back up and running for the people of this province who are in need. And of those numbers, Speaker, out of 2,500, we have about 430 who are listed as homeless, who don't have anywhere to lay their head. And I know at night, when my head is on the pillow, that does concern me, and it does keep me awake. And Speaker, I do know that you're nodding as well. It is one that does bother me when it comes to that. So with respect to housing, whatever we can do with respect to getting more housing available, more housing built, more housing refurbished to get people back into, it is only the correct thing to do. Speaker, I appreciate your time. I appreciate the attention of members opposite, and I always thank the people of the District of Cape St. Francis for putting me in this role. It is a tremendous role. It's one I don't take lightly. It's always an honour to stand and represent my district, and I will have a chance to speak again, Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the member for the beautiful district of Cape St. Francis. The member for Topsail Paradise.
Thank you, Speaker. And it's always a pleasure to rise in this House and speak on behalf of the wonderful residents of Topsail Paradise. And we're talking about what the budget sub-amendment. And I just want to, talking about the budget, excuse me, and what's in it and what's not in it. I mean, that's what we look at. We look at the whole picture. And listening to, well, before I go on, I do want to congratulate the new Premier on being elected. I haven't had a chance to say that publicly, so congratulations to him. And I also want to congratulate Jacob Lewis. Jacob Lewis last night. What a very proud moment for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. Oh, I will be there. You won't know what my talent is, but I will be there. In any case, just to talk about the Premier rose yesterday and spoke about the health care and talked about it being primary focus, and it should be, and talked about health care being available for all, and listed off some things that were in the budget. And I look at it and I know there's a balancing act between funding and priorities. But I think we all agree healthcare should be a prime priority. And I thought of things that I would like to see in the budget. I hear from seniors in particular, but others who are on a drug program, and a particular drug works for them, but is not covered, and they can't afford to buy it. So I think we need to do some closer look at that, because it's not a lot that are in those cases, but sorry, we can't fund this drug, but you have to use the one that's not working. So that's something we need to be looking at. Long-term care continues to be a huge issue, continues to be a huge issue for seniors, and in particular seniors who are couples and cannot be put together in an institution on their final years. So we do need to do more there. I know there was a report done on it, but more action certainly is required there. And our demographics, we're all very familiar with our demographics. We're an aging population. I believe we're the oldest population in Canada. So many challenges come along with that. One being dementia care. And I know there's been a document put out on dementia care, but we still have huge numbers of individuals and families dealing with dementia. And it's not pretty. It really isn't. And it may be because we are living longer. But one thing, and I'm hoping, and I think I got the cue that the government is going to do something about this. It's not going to be soon, but they promised to do something about it. And that was the shingles vaccine, which has been proven to reduce the cases of dementia by somewhere around 20%. Good point. And so that's something that saves us money in the long run. And I said the other day, looking at a report, that dementia care in Canada costs over $40 billion a year for various forms of care that someone suffering from dementia deals with. So that would be a true investment. And of course, I've always spoke about the continuous glucose monitoring devices. I won't say much more about them. I will get up again and talk to it. But that is an investment that we're not seeing in the budget that would save us, according to the Canadian Diabetes Association, upward to $100 million per year. So those are investments in our residents, in our health care, that actually save us money. I also look at things that are time sensitive. I've gotten up in this house many, many times and advocated for IVF treatment here in this province. The Liberal government during their AGM in 2016 spoke to doing that. 5 years ago on the campaign trail, the past Premier spoke to doing that, and we are not there. We know that it's been promised now for another year out. And for young families and young mothers or women out there who want to start a family, those 6 years now gone are lost years. And some of them may not be able to conceive now. And we talk about a demographic where our population is declining. And people want to have families start them here in the province and stay here in the province, then funding IVF is a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned there. Mental health. I've risen here in the House many times, talked about long-term continuity of care for mental health, those struggling with mental health. And there's a wonderful building been built. On all accounts, it's a wonderful, bright building, and people that have entered the building speak highly of it. But we still need to come up with the programs and the staff that can provide individuals struggling with those challenges to have long-term continuity of care. And speaking to that, you talk about our education system. And we know the huge increase in violence in our schools, and it continues and continues and continues. And the NLTA spoke to, in a recent report, that it's almost a 30% increase, just shy of 30% increase in reported violence actions in schools. And that ties into mental health. That ties into mental health because 70% mental health issues occur in childhood and adolescence. So we need to come up with more preventative measures that help young children struggling with mental health. And hopefully would be one measure to curbing violence in our schools. I don't mention it much, but I will mention it here. The buzzword for us all is Muskrat Falls. And I know the Premier spoke to that yesterday as well. And I know when that was brought to this House, must be 4 or 5 years ago now, the report, I actually stood up and I spoke on that. And I looked at it and I said, you know, a misguided project. And I said, that word's not even strong enough for it. And I remember the member from Gander, who was right across from me, actually applauded me for that comment. But I'm speaking truthfully to that. The project itself, as a hydro producing facility, is a good project. No doubt. We need electricity. How it was managed, how it came to be, how the cost overruns occurred is totally unacceptable. And we don't want to see that again. We certainly don't want to see that again. And similar to the Churchill Falls Agreement signed back in, I think it was 67, I stand to be corrected. We don't want to see that again. We don't want to see that again. Just think of where we would be if we had a good deal back in 67. Just think of where we would be if we didn't have a mismanaged Muskrat Falls project. They have both have both held us back. So when we look at the discussion around the current hydro project and the MOU, we want to be ultra sure that what's being done, what's being proposed is the best deal for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. That's what we want. And I listened to the Premier yesterday reading quotes from the report. I don't think any of us can argue the report. It was a well-done report. And you have to learn from that, I think was the words the Premier said. But when I look at it, the number one recommendation in that report, and I'll read it out. The government of Newfoundland and Labrador should never undertake on its own or through one of its crown corporations or agencies the planning, approval, or construction of any large project, meaning a project with a budget of 50 million or more, without engaging independent, external experts to provide a robust review, assessment, and analysis. And the number one recommendation in that report. And I know everyone on this side of the House would love to see that recommendation followed through on, because that gives us the certainty, or as close to the certainty that we can have. You know, you talk about independence, you know, people who are not influenced or controlled by the project or those who are doing the project. And this is a huge piece of our future, this project. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to have it the best for this province. And I note actually the Premier spoke yesterday and called it a good project. And I know throughout the discussion we had on it, the debate we had on it, no one mentioned the best. Only for afterwards in the press, one of the panel actually said it. But we want to be sure, from an independent point of view, that that MOU and a potential agreement will give us the best. So there's no disputing that. And that's where we stand on it. That's at least where I stand on it. I couldn't vote against it because maybe it is the best. No one's told me that. I couldn't vote for it because, again, no one said it was the best deal. no one that was independent as per the first recommendation of the Muskrat Falls Inquiry. Why spend money on reports, and that was a much needed report, if we're not going to take heed of the recommendations that are contained therein? I also want to just touch base on the Education Accord. Last January 2024, we were promised an Education Accord. We were promised an Education Accord that was going to solve all the problems in education. That was promised for, well, New Year's, I believe it was New Year's Eve, December 31st, 24. As we all know, that didn't happen. A month or two later, a report was tabled, but it was an interim report, which, as I said a year ago, is going to be a rehash of all the reports we have. And a good portion of that was. And it was really a rehash of what the previous report said, as well as what we heard. But stay tuned, because 2 months ago, we were supposed to get the actual report, and we're still waiting on that. My colleague spoke about food security and people using food banks in the pantries, community pantries. Just last week, myself and I attended a food drive up in CBS. My colleague from Harbour, Maine, and my colleague from CBS are very much aware of Louise and Bernie Mercer, and they have a program they call SOAR, S-O-A-R, Spirit of Alex and Riley. They lost both their children, I think one at 9, one at 15, to a rare brain cancer. Both of them lost to that. I can't imagine that. I can't imagine how hard that is on a family. Both their children at young ages. So they wanted to give back to the community. So they've held these food drives, and they also have a Christmas toy drive. But they hold this food drive every year. The community really is huge in contributing to it. The Salvation Army up there provides their venue for storage of food. And every year I go there, and huge stacks of food, But every year I go there, I speak to the food bank, because it goes to the Paradise CBS Food Bank. And every year I'm told this amount of food would last 3 weeks. Then I'm told this amount of food is going to last 2 weeks. And this amount of food. So the amount of food is not going as far as it normally did, because there's a greater need. There is a greater usage for those food banks. So what does that say about society here? What does that say about our government? What does it say about us dealing with the most vulnerable out there? As I said earlier, our seniors who are in need of life-altering or life-saving drugs and treatment, can't get it. Children, families who can't put food on the table. We should be embarrassed. We really should be embarrassed that we allow this to happen. And, you know, having kids go to school who are hungry doesn't do us any justice. Our children are our most valuable resource, and they should be treated as such, and we should give them every opportunity to succeed. I know we have a new Minister of Education. I will give him credit because he did reach out already, and we're going to hopefully have a get-together and chat about some of the issues in education, and particularly in Paradise. So I can talk about that on another note. But I do want to just briefly talk about the roads, and Route 60 in running through Topsail in the district has been in a terrible state of disrepair for many, many years. I've had the opportunity to actually meet with the many different ministers over the years, all very cordial and having a chat, all very committed to doing something about it. And I guess this is the first year that we've actually seen that road on a list for this year. The section of road that's being covered does not quite cover what needs to be done. So I've reached out to, well, I'll have to reach out to the newer minister now because I reached out to the most recent one, and have a discussion on how far we can get that road to go, because it's a heavily traveled piece of road. We've seen people get injured because there's not a lot of places to walk there. It's a very eroded shoulder to that road, and something needs to be done. It's not a well-lit piece of road going through there. Again, lots of traffic goes through there. There's a soccer field, there's a beach, there's a lot of other amenities down there that people go to access on a daily basis. And of course, we're going to have, may not be fixed by in time for that, but of course you have Canada Summer Games events down there as well. So that road will be well traveled. And this time of year, we see, well, some will call them potholes, some will call them craters, some call them what you want. But they're not, they're dangerous for traffic going down there and damage to cars and vehicles. So I hope to sit with, I think the new minister was the minister before who I spoke to, so I hope to sit with him and determine exactly where that segment of road is going to go, and hopefully we can extend it a little bit to cover the most serious areas that need repair. And I'll be up again to speak a little bit more, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. And now call on the member for Harbour, Maine.
Thank you, Speaker. It's an honor to stand here on behalf of the constituents of the District of Harbour, Maine, and speak on the budget, specifically with respect to the sub-amendment. Speaker, I had the opportunity yesterday to hear the Premier speak about the budget, and first of all, his introduction was very interesting, I thought. He talked about the money that has been spent on the budget. The money, for example, he referenced the budget includes money for health care, money for the vulnerable, and so on and so forth. He referenced the $10 billion that is involved here with respect to the budget. And when he got into his speech, he indicated that he stated he practiced defense. When he was in his law practice, he practiced defense law for most of his years, and that gave him the opportunity to listen and hear the arguments first, the arguments of the case first from others, and then to poke holes in some of those cases. Well, I too am a lawyer and had the opportunity to practice for pretty much most of my legal career as a defense lawyer. And so now I will get the opportunity to assess some of the points that he made yesterday, some of his arguments, and I think perhaps poke some holes in some of his points that he presented. And one of the things that he seemed to be intent on, Speaker, was talking about the importance of the facts. And I, as a lawyer, believe that facts are everything. That's how we were trained, is to look at the facts, not opinions, but facts. So, in fact, he said, let's stick to the facts. So I'm going to do that in the next 20 minutes. I'll talk about some facts that I think the government here has to be reminded of. First of all, with respect to Budget 2025. Now, this is my opinion that it shows that this government is not a good stewards of taxpayers' money. And what am I basing that opinion on are some of the facts. Let's look at the facts. The massive debt. Let's look at the fact of the record borrowing that this government has engaged in. The record spending, and in my opinion, that would be very irresponsible spending, which indicates poor fiscal management of taxpayers' money. And I would argue, Speaker, that the road to prosperity cannot be achieved through reckless spending that we have seen this government in the last 10 years engage in. So when we look at this budget document, I'll look at some of the facts. This budget is a recycled document. It's a recycled document, and I would argue why is that a recycled document? It is filled with liberal re-announcements, announcements over announcements. And I will point to the Justice portfolio, the Justice Department, as evidence. And let's stick to the facts, as the Premier stated. Let's stick to the facts. When we look at the budget speech and what was argued and what was presented there, that $20 million over 2 years bolsters new public safety initiatives. Well, guess what, Speaker? That $20 million, that was announced actually back in November 6, 2024. And the same thing with reference to the $40 million that was added over the last 5 years. That too was referenced in the announcement back in November of 2024. I can go on and on. When we talk about the Joint Task Force Unit, in CRCMP, that was part of the $20 million investment announcement. Well, that too is a re-announcement, part of a recycled document. That announcement was made back in November of 2024. And the same with the $180 million annually of policing services Newfoundland and Labrador. That, again, was referenced in November the 6th, 2024. This continues on and on. When we look at November the 6th, 2024, starting in 26-27, there would be an additional 19 police officers hired. Yet we know, and this was ignored by the government, that the National Police Federation had requested 24, I believe it was 24 officers. That was ignored. The RCMP out in Harbour Grace area, they had requested police officers. Again, last year and this year, that was ignored in this budget. So, Speaker, when we're looking at this budget, it's recycled. It contains liberal re-announcements, more debt, and really, I would argue it's just simply more of the same of what we've seen in the past 10 years by this government. Now, when I look at what the Premier had stated yesterday in his speech, he stated that we will get things right. And when he talked, my colleague from Cape St. Francis indicated about this nonsense about them caring on that side of the House, insinuating that we don't care. I'm very surprised and disappointed that our Premier, our new Premier, is starting off with that kind of rhetoric, because that's all it is, Speaker, it's rhetoric. On this side of the House, yes, we care as well, but I would argue, as my colleague from Cape St. Francis said, we all are in this because we care. We are here because we represent the people of this province, And we believe in what we're doing to try to improve the lives of the people that we represent. So to say that, to insinuate for the Premier to insinuate that, I mean, that's just very disappointing. He has to do better than that as the new Premier of our province. This has to be about building bridges, not walls. And that kind of statement reduces that to dividing us as a people. And I would even go as far to say that the population and the people that we represent are sick of that. They're sick of that kind of divisiveness that's going on. We have to be in a spirit, in a time of hope, and in a time where we are coming together. We have many challenges, external challenges facing us in the world today, south of the border and even within our own communities in terms of issues that are happening as related to crime and people struggling for to make ends meet. So this is a time when we have to be together. We have to join one another and try to support the good initiatives. And I, for one, when I see that there are positive things that are done by the government, we have to support that. That is what the people want to see from us. When we see that government is putting forth policies that are good, then we will support them and we will commend them. Like, for example, the sugar tax. Finally, they have agreed to scrap the sugar tax. I spoke before the Easter break saying we need to scrap the sugar tax. Well, fortunately, the position of the opposition party has now been adopted by the government, and we're happy about that. That is good, and we commend the government for doing that. And the same thing with the carbon tax, the same kind of approach there. We advocated always for the scrapping, the axing of the carbon tax. And now we have seen government adopting that policy of ours. So we're happy about that. That is a good thing. We stand with you on that, and that's what the people that we represent want to see from us. They want to see that cooperation and that collaboration. But make no mistake about it, when we see you doing something wrong, we will be the first to announce that to the public, what you're doing. And that is our responsibility. And I hear this often, this indignation from the government because we are asking questions in question period. And, oh, well, that's a good question or that's a bad question. Every question we ask on behalf of the people we represent are good questions. They're legitimate questions. It's not for you to say what is good or not. We represent the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, and we will not be intimidated or challenged by you that we are not permitted or given the permission to ask these legitimate questions. So, Speaker, this is what we're about. We believe that this is time for us to have a change of attitude here. I mean, we have an important role in this parliamentary system as opposition members. So we cannot and should not be expected to apologize because we ask tough questions, or it may hurt a minister's feelings because these are tough questions. You are in, as a minister, you are in a very important position. And if you're not able to take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Speaker, this is important. This is important for us as members of the House of Assembly to say, this is important for us to say that we have a responsibility to represent the people that we are elected. Now, every time we get up here and question the government or challenge them on something that they do, they basically look at what we say and try to twist it and try to make it out to be something that it's not. That is not what collaboration is. That is not what cooperation is. That is not working together for the purpose or for the people that we represent. And I would say that to suggest otherwise is disingenuous of this government. So when we look at the responsibility of members of the House of Assembly, we have to bring forward issues that matter. When I look at this budget is about choices. And yes, the Premier got up yesterday and he talked about the money, the $10 billion, and there's no question that there was incredible spending in this budget. But what our position is, that spending, that money has to be allocated properly. The Liberals and this government had a chance. They had a chance to make smart choices in this budget that would make life better for all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians at a time when so many of them are struggling. But I would argue that they failed to do so. And I'm going to talk to you a bit about policing and the justice system. As I indicated earlier, the budget ignored the recommendations of the National Police Federation. They asked for 25 more police officers in the province. Why is that important? Well, we should know, like, as this is National Police Week, this is a very important week for us because right now, this week, we are showcasing and highlighting the week that our police officers do. The RNC, Royal Newfoundland Constabulary, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. These officers are there every day, 24/7, 7 days a week, 24/7, 365, and they are here to represent us and to protect us in the community. But yet we know that many communities have been left without the resources that they need. Many communities do not have the policing that they need at a time when they are experiencing more crime. They're experiencing the rise in the illicit drug trade is very worrisome, and yet they don't have the resources that they need. Now, when I look at that, Speaker, I'm going to address one of the, recently we just heard last week, and I think this is very important to mention. Last week, enough lethal drugs were seized in St. John's to wipe out an entire metro region. That's the headline. That's the headline that we're seeing in our media. That was on last Wednesday on a VOCM article. And then the CBC referenced an article, fentanyl seized in Newfoundland and Labrador's largest ever bust, enough to kill half the province. Speaker, this is definitely a crisis. There's no question about this. The largest fentanyl seizure in the history of the province. 500 grams of fentanyl were seized. This drug trafficking bust has to be of major, major, major concern to everyone involved in any type of policing, policy decision-making. Why is this so serious? This was the 15 times larger than in any of the province's history. This is the largest fentanyl seizure to date. And we're told that 2 milligrams of that fentanyl can be considered a lethal dose. And we have our young people out in the communities, in our towns and communities, that are exposed to this. So we have a very serious, serious issue. And yet, we do not see the level of police resources that we need. I don't know what it's going to take. Thankfully, the RNC were able to, execute this bust, this drug bust. But how many more drugs are out in our community? How many more that are slipping through the cracks? RCMP and RNC need resources urgently. We see this happening. It's very serious. I think we need to also invest further in our education system so that our young people in school are really exposed to the risk of drugs in our society. I think we need to focus more on that as well. Speaker, when we look at calls for service for the RCMP and RNC, they can't keep up with the calls for service. And what does this mean? This means that they cannot deal with the calls for service. That means that they're not able to really do the proactive policing, the crime prevention strategies that are necessary, the surveillance. Imagine what they would be able to do if they had the resources to do it. If we empowered them with the resources to do the crime prevention, to do the surveillance, to get out there in the towns and communities, to provide that police presence.
Safer communities.
But it is not happening, Speaker. It is not happening. We need to see proactive crime prevention. We need to see more investment for our police officers. They require proper resourcing to make our communities safe. And it is my position that Budget 2025 failed abysmally in that regard. Speaker, as well, when we're looking at the drug crisis right now, we see that there are insufficient addictions treatment options in the province generally, which is driving drug-related crime. I've had the opportunity to speak to many police officers, Speaker, and they have said to me that they're not able to really target the prolific offenders. They're saying as well that most of the crime that we're seeing, especially in rural area, is related to drugs. It is connected, directly connected with the drug trade and the drug trafficking that's going on. So, Speaker, we need to see more attention to that. We need to see a focus, a priority by this government on this matter. Otherwise, I think we're going to be in serious trouble when it comes to, we are right now, as far as the drug addiction issue is in play. So on that note, I will conclude, Speaker. I thank you for the opportunity to allow me to speak on the budget, and I look forward to speaking again. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
Thank you. Now call on the member for Bayvert Green Bay.
Speaker, it is a privilege to be able to get up here this morning and to talk on the budget sub-amendment, which denotes the neglect across rural Newfoundland, across our residents, businesses, and communities. Now, as an MHA for Bayvert Green Bay, a rural district, I will highlight some examples. But I will also highlight across and in representing central Newfoundland and in supporting my fellow colleagues from that area as well. And also some impacts that are truly across our entire province of Newfoundland and Labrador. So where do I want to start? I want to start first with health care and to come back to last night to an issue that my colleague from Grand Falls, Windsor, Buckens highlighted, and that was the Lionel Killen Hospice. That Lionel Killen Hospice, as was so passionately highlighted last night, was a grassroots effort. Fundraising for that occurred across all of central Newfoundland. It's, you know, it's a hospice that's in Grand Falls, Windsor, Grand Falls. But the fundraising and the drive and the vision for all of that captivated all of central Newfoundland because it was a need that was lacking, and it was a desire to do what is right for our seniors in the last days of their life and for their families as well. And a significant fundraising effort was undertaken. And as the member for Grand Falls, Windsor, Buck and I did last night, over $1 million was raised. And you know, and like you said, some of that was small, $1, $2, $5, and then also some significant donations from businesses across the area, because they saw the need, they saw the void. Once the hospice was ready to open, lo and behold, photo op, and the Liberals swoop in for that photo op. This year, with the budget, we have a situation where that hospice now needs a little bit of recurring bridge funding to continue to provide an ongoing capability, not just for central Newfoundland, but all of the province. So let me explain. That hospice is an opportunity for those within palliative care to die with dignity. To die with dignity. And to give their families some comfort and support, wraparound services, as they do that. And I have witnessed that myself, that story, from a number of residents within my own communities in my district. They spoke of the impact of having that hospice there and what it meant to them, what it meant to their families, and what it meant to their friends. And I commend the member from Grand Falls, Windsor, Buckens for so passionately highlighting that last night. A little bit of funding now would take pressure off not just the Grand Falls Regional Hospital, but you know, the two regional outlets that I have in my area, Springdale and Bayvert, but also across the province. We're getting those in palliative care, not just from across central Newfoundland, but all over the province. This is simply the right thing to do. This is about having dignity. This is about having compassion. This is about doing the right thing for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians that help build this province. You know, I believe the Premier hoisted in that impact last night when it was highlighted by the member from Grand Falls, Windsor, Buchan. And I somewhat expected to come in here this morning and hear or see a press release that the funding was going to be there. But unfortunately, that did not occur. And then this morning, you know, I listened to my colleague from Exploits, who further reiterated the issue with Lionel Killen, and then also tied it to the Liberal office in Grand Falls, Windsor. Budgeting is about choices. And as the member from Exploits highlighted, we have an opportunity here with regards to an opportunity cost. We could do a little bit of cost containment on that office, that unnecessary office in Grand Falls, Windsor, and support something that is providing a vital level of support, taking pressure off hospitals right across the province. So, you know, I was thinking about this as the member from Exploits was speaking. You know, a lot of with regards to budgeting is about public engagement. And we saw an example of that last night when the member from Bonavista gave us a couple of polls, you know, for here in the House. So, you know, I wrote I wrote up a couple of poll questions too that I hope not just for this House, but also for the greater public to potentially engage with as well. So the first of those polls would be, should the taxpayer fund a Liberal office in Grand Falls, Windsor? Now, I fundamentally believe that the resounding response to that would be no. Now, further to that, and that would be, like I said previously, that is about cost containment. And as we've seen with the budget, we have significant cost containment to undertake. So the other one with that is, as was highlighted last night and highlighted again this morning, budgeting is about choices. Choices. So the second poll would be, should the Liberal office in Grand Falls, Windsor be closed and the funds diverted to the Lionel Killen Hospice? A simple choice. Let us do what is right, not just for central Newfoundland, but for all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. And I would hope that the greater public listening to that would probably help to make that a question of the day. Now, the next item I'd like to speak on is road safety. Road safety is a significant issue across most of the areas in rural Newfoundland and Labrador. And road safety is not just about pavement. It encompasses line painting, signage, guardrails, shouldering, and most notably, as was highlighted last night by the member from Fogo Island Cape Frios, brush cutting. Brush cutting is a huge issue, and I'll touch on some examples in my district. But, you know, we have opportunity here to do what is right for a lot of our secondary routes in the province. Signage. Why can't we give a little bit of funding allocations to the depots to be able, if they see something that needs to be fixed, let them get on with it and fix it? That is centralized, right? It is not working. It is not working for those depots. They want to fix it. And in fact, those public servants are the ones getting beaten down because those signs are in disrepair. The other is guardrails. You know, as I previously highlighted, you know, we're bringing in a lot of posts from Nova Scotia, driving up the cost. We have an opportunity here to leverage Newfoundland companies with regards to supplying those posts. And, you know, for tourists coming in and looking at that combination of very poor signage, some signage you can't even see, as I highlighted last summer, guardrails, lack of shouldering. You know, a lot of them you see it after they'll post on Facebook. That small community was a great place to visit, but I warn you in going there because of the road. That is simply unsatisfactory for the residents of those communities. Now, as my colleague from Fogo Island Cape Frios, you know, he gave the example of driving to Hare Bay, and the road was like driving through a tunnel. No chance to react if you see a moose. You know, and I was reminded this morning when I picked up the Moose Side campaign and a tenant that was highlighted on that, and that about having a responsibility to protect women and children in your life. In my district, and this is the same across rural Newfoundland and Labrador, we have a lot of mothers that are driving their children for a variety of reasons. You know, doctor's appointment, school sports. Our roadways are lifelines. And those secondary routes require significant attention. You know, in my district, I think of the 410, that's the Bayvert Highway, serving 19 communities. We've had multiple moose accidents over the past couple of years. The 411, the 413, the 417, 18, and 19. All of those highways require brush cutting. Coming then back to the Green Bay side, routes 380, 381, 391, and 392. And this, you know, was as talked about before from my colleague from Placentia West Bellevue, is about having a plan, a roads plan, okay? And it shouldn't be, this goes into a void and you're waiting for an answer. We need a legitimate 5-year plan, no politics, covering both pavement and road safety, including brush cutting. Brush cutting right now across my district is a significant issue. We have to give our residents, our motorists, our visitors to these towns, tourists, the capacity to be able to react in a sufficient manner. And that requires additional brush cutting. Now, you know, the Premier spoke last night about, for rural Newfoundland, that he would have your back. Now, I know a couple of routes in rural Newfoundland in my area, 413, where if you're driving on them, you're clicking brush. You're actually clicking brush as you drive by. So I respectfully then ask the government to let's take the effort to clear the brush off the back of the residents that drive along those highways. The other thing, now I'll come back to healthcare within my district, and a number of residents have approached me and they highlighted, you know, it was only a couple of decades ago that we had frontline access. As doctors would come from Grand Falls and see us on a weekly basis. So it was set up for the clinics, Robert's Arm, Triton, and Last C. They've lost all that. You know, the Premier last night spoke about public access to health care. Well, let me say this. You know, right now the plan is to have these collaborative clinics. You'd have one in Grand Falls, Windsor. That does not work for residents of Westport, Purbeck's Cove, Wald Cove, Coachman's Cove, Arbor Round, Malls Cove, Long Island, or Brighton. We have to make it easier for the residents of those communities to be able to access frontline care. The model that we have been advocating and the model that works across northern Canada is nurse practitioners. Is a nurse practitioner. Now, can you imagine if a nurse practitioner would be able to provide frontline access in a number of those smaller communities? We would take pressure off Bayvert, we would take pressure off Springdale, and ultimately we would take pressure off Grand Falls, Windsor. And by doing so, we would most probably retain more doctors and nurses as well, because they wouldn't be so overwhelmed. As I highlighted, that is a model that works across Northern Canada with the nursing stations. It's a model with regards to frontline care that we used when I was serving in the military as well with medics. It is a proven model, and it's a model that needs to be now leveraged. You know, a year ago, when we were on the campaign trail with regards to the by-election in Bayvert, Green Bay, there was a significant promise made with regards to health care in my district. And that was regards to the clinic in Lassie and the clinic in Triton. Now, I queried in November again because nothing was happening with regards to those two clinics. And the answer that we got at that time, it's being worked on. Well, here we are now, a full year later. How long does it take? How long does it take to implement a promise? And why would you make a promise if you're not going to keep it?
I've been waiting 6 years.
So these types of promises just being trolled out willy-nilly is not doing any of us in this house any favors. That's why a lot of the residents of Newfoundland and Labrador become cynical to politicians. And you know, if you do that, I think you become morally bankrupt. When we make a promise, any of us here in this house, there's an expectation and a duty that that promise will be honored. So I respectfully ask that the promises that were made last May with regards to the two clinics, one for Lassie, one for Triton, in addition, the promises that were made for road work along 392 and 391 be honored. It's your duty. Thank you so much.
The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Speaker. I move, seconded by the Deputy Government House Leader, that this House do now stand in recess until 2 p.m.
This House do stand in recess until 2 p.m. this afternoon.